Shalom. We're in Parasha Ki Tavo. That means when you come in. Now, when we look at the last three parashas and their names, it's Shoftim, Ki Tizei, Ki Tavo. That means the judges. When you go out to war, and after the war, you will come in to the promised land. So it's a message to the judges specifically. So I want to focus a bit on the judges. Now, what's important is to know that we're in the time frame of the border of the Jordan River. Now, there's also a border between the Jordan River and the promised land. It's as if we're in the wilderness, then there's a border that enter into the Jordan, and then there's another border that into the promised land. The reason I'm saying that will be evident later this week. So just before I delve into this, I'm just going to give you a bit of a heads up what I'm busy with. On Mount Ebal, on Mount Gerizim, there's 6 tribes on each mountain, and there are 12 curses that's spoken over Mount Ebal. And the tribes, or the 6 sons of Jacob that are on Mount Ebal, I am busy looking at the meanings of their names. I don't think I'll have enough time to do the 6 on Mount Gerizim, but I've done 3 this morning on Mount Ebal. Unfortunately, they're a bit too complex to just do over the voice. You need the slides to see it as well, but probably tomorrow or the day after I'll give a summary overview of what I found when I finished the 6 of them. But jumping back into this topic of the judges, when you go out to war, that means you're crossing a border from the desert, the place of your current peace, that you made your peace, that you made peace with, your wilderness, that you grew attached to. You have to cross over a place that makes you uncomfortable, which is the Jordan River. And after the Jordan River, during the end, there's a war. So the Jordan River basically gives us an idea of slowly, it's like heating the pot of water, slowly heating, and then the boiling point will be at the end of the 3.5 years, where Armageddon happens, where that final war happens on this side of the 7th millennium. And that will then be another crossing over the border or the edge that step out from the Jordan and into 2 different time periods, but one area. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because spiritual concepts are different to physical concepts, and the idea of time, and I mentioned last Sabbath that the 2 realms already connected. They are overlapping. Now, what's the attributes of the physical realm? We're entrapped by time. What's the attribute of a spiritual realm? It is above time. And now there's a intermediate or a mix between the 2, where people will have the ability to be in the physical, but also move out of time, even within the same space. Now, why I'm saying that is, this is just my interpretation, is when people cross the border from the Jordan and they set foot in the promised land, there will be 2 camps. The one camp will set their foot into the promised land in the physical, still entrapped by time, because they haven't received their enlightened bodies. And that makes them subject to the time frame of the 7th millennium, which will be 1,000-year physical time period. In the spiritual, 1,000 years is as a day. So that moment of stepping over, for those who are in the other camp, who are resurrected and receive their new beryl bodies, their bodies of light, they will step into the same promised land, but in a spiritual time frame, or the time frame beyond time, which is the 8th millennium. And their promised land experience is totally different to the physical realm's promised land experience, which will be another desert experience. And those who have been renewed and resurrected and have received a new body, they will step into basically the theme of the 8th millennium during the moment of the 7th millennium, if you catch my drift. Both entering the promised land, but the two camps experiencing it totally differently. Now the judges, the shoftim that I was talking about, they are the ones who receive the message that they need to prepare to go into war, and they need to prepare to step out of the war and entering in, to come into the promised land, Kitavo. And stepping in, they basically have access because the two realms are still overlapped. Then they basically fully, it's like eclipse. The two realms are eclipsing. There's a full eclipse that happens during the 7th millennium, where the space beyond time is present within the space within the physical time, and they're experiencing differently. Now the judges, or the bride, or the leaders that are part of the righteous camp, who had been resurrected, renewed bodies, they will be the judges during the 7th millennium. And they will have access to the desert experience, but not experiencing it in the same way the people that are still entrapped, who are in the second camp. Now I'm saying that because there's a pattern in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, where Yeshua received his renewed body. He could walk through walls. He could be transposed from one place to another in a moment. He was not subject to time, but he was still in the physical, but he was also in the spiritual, and he could translate from the one to the other in a moment, because his actual existence is beyond time. It's no longer entrapped by time. He was resurrected and transposed into his original body, which we will know as a renewed body. We've got another example of Philip, who spoke to the Ethiopian, and then he was transposed in a moment to another place and time. So he stepped out of the physical into the spiritual, and above time he could step into another space in a moment. So that's the spiritual technology that exists. When the spiritual and the physical eclipse. Now I think there was an eclipse during the first coming of Mashiach in a certain context or a certain dynamic or extent, but it will be a full eclipse of the two realms during the 7th millennium. And this message of Kitavo is linked to the gematria of Kitavo, which is 439, which has the meaning of those who are in exile, those who will be going through chastisement, correction. You get the similar message in Paul to Timothy, say that Torah is good for reproof, for correction, and to teach you in righteousness, to become righteous basically. So the judges will teach the Torah during that time, because part of Gematria of 439 is the word that connects to a judge, and they will need to teach the people during the 7th millennium, and then they have an opportunity to be transposed after the 7th millennium. Now I've briefly looked at some of the 6 tribes on Mount Ebal, and they basically represent exactly what I'm saying. In their gematria of their names and their meanings, it confirms the idea of people going through a process and being transformed. So we'll look in detail into those areas. So that's all what I have this morning, just to jock your mind into thinking about spiritual things in a different way, and instilling and underlining the message to the Shoftim. Now we are Shoftim, those who are called the righteous people, the bride. They will also be the judges, the Shoftim, during the 7th millennium. And we are currently being trained up in order to be to stand on a foundation of Torah, so we will be able to judge, to rule, to govern, and to help those people, to correct them, to show them the way during the 7th millennium. So be strong, don't fear, and keep your eye on Yahweh regardless of what you see in the physical, and speak life, speak His word into every situation. That's all I have for you. I hope you have a lovely day. Be blessed. Shalom.